and welcome everybody to this week's Purpose and Profits podcast, Sisterhood podcast. We've just changed over from the Bodacity show. We are still bodacious. We are still rocking it here with bringing guests that will support you in growing your bold life and your bold business. And today I have the fabulous Tammy Johnston with me. Welcome, Tammy. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, now she used to be from Calgary, but she's moved to British Columbia. And so joining us from beautiful Okanagan Valley. And I've known Tammy for a long time here in town, long time, actually. I think we first met through Personal Best a couple decades ago or something, wasn't it?
Possibly. We just keep bumping into one another over and over again. Here.
Exactly. You know, it's a small world, this whole entrepreneurial field here. And today we're going to be talking about the top 3 things to focus on when you're starting a business. So often I work with more seasoned entrepreneurs, women who've been in business for a while, but today we want to give you some really practical advice on what to do and what to focus on when you're starting a business. So I'm going to read you Tammy's bio, then we're going to find out the juicy tidbits behind the scenes so that we can get to know her a little better, and why she does the work she does. And then we're going to launch into talking about how to set up your business and your days so that you can really win. So Tammy Johnston is the hold your hand and kick your butt ass business coach. She has been working with small businesses for over 20 years to help them build sustainable and successful businesses. Tammy believes that business done right, honestly, ethically, and morally has the power to make the world a better place for our customers, our families, and our communities. She doesn't promise a magical bullet, hallelujah, because there is no such thing, but she does teach all the basic foundational skills you need to first survive and then thrive. She only deals in real, practical, put it to use training and advice that has been tested in battle. All right, great information. And later on, we'll tell you a little bit about the Solopreneur self-assessment gift that Tammy has for you. But for now, welcome, Tammy.
Thank you for having me, Jeanette.
So now tell us a little bit about you. We wouldn't guess from reading your website or hearing your introduction or something like that. What's something that most people don't know about you?
Oh, what something that most people don't know about me? That's a hard one because, like you said, I'm pretty straightforward and honest. If I had to go something that most people don't know, I am working on writing a fiction series. It's one of my stress reliefs at the end of the day when I'm going through and trying to, okay, I need to have something creative that's not business related. So I'm going through and I'm writing a fiction series of books.
Love that. And what kind of story? Is it like science fiction, fantasy?
A bit of a mix between science fiction and fantasy because I'm a geek. I'm a geek at the core.
I kind of assume that might be the case because, you know, I've met you. I know. Okay, so awesome. Tell us why you do the work you do. Not what you do, but why do you do the work you do and have been doing for so long?
Because, well, I'm such a dork. I've been studying money, business, and success since I was like a little girl, 7 years old. I was always fascinated by it. And my background is financial services. I've been doing that for over 30 years now because, dear God, I'm getting old. But when I started my own business and went into sales and started my own company, I started working with a lot of self-employed small business owners. And as I was getting into their personal finances and stuff, well, the business stuff came up a lot of the time as well. And I found that there were so many people that they had a great product or service and they were working really hard, but they just weren't getting anywhere with it because they lacked the business skills because we are not taught this stuff in school. Even when you go to take a lot of the business courses, they don't teach you anything that's actually useful on the day-to-day running of a business. Yeah. And so I started helping them out with it and their business started to do better. And when their business is doing better, they had more money to invest and buy insurance. So it worked out. But I really just love the small business aspect. And I've seen over my 30-year career, I've seen so many hardworking, intelligent, wonderful people start businesses and crash and burn And it breaks my heart because very, very rarely is it ever there's an actual problem with the product or the service or the person isn't working hard enough. It's the fact that they were missing some or a lot of the basic business skills that they needed to build a profitable business that runs. And so what I focus on the new businesses, like my specialty is idea stage up to 2 years, because that's where I can have the most impact, where a lot of your business coaches want them, oh, well, once you've been in business for 5 years and you're looking to take it to the next 10 million increment, well, then I'm all over it. Where I want to make sure that they get to that stage, because everybody loses when a small business fails.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And we actually should talk more about collaboration, because I love picking them up from the 2-year and beyond stage so that they can actually build a revenue runway that then they can scale on, because they try to scale prematurely in most cases because they're sold pieces of what I call the profit plane by the gurus on the top of the mountain, and they're not ready yet. So you can help them really become an entrepreneur. And then I can pick up and go from there with them. So we should talk more, because I don't support people with the basics of entrepreneurship. And it's really important to know what your lane is, who you love to work with, and what you like to do with them, where your strengths are. And so by all means, now we'll talk, and happy to send you the people that come to me that are brand new. So let's talk about your 3 focuses that help people be more successful in business. The first one, I think, is how to set up your days so you win.
Yes.
That sounds like a good, interesting piece of advice. Tell us about that.
Well, that's a huge one. That's one of the biggest problems that people have when they go and start their own business. And they're going, I have the power, I get to make all the decisions. I have the power, what I'm going to do throughout the day, which is a blessing and a curse. Because when you're being trained as an employee and stuff, you have your start hours and your end hours. You get told when you can go for lunch and what you're going to be doing and all of this stuff. And then when you're the boss and you have to do it, hey, what can I do? I could do anything. And a lot of people are just, they're going, okay, whatever is quick and easy and it keeps me busy, and they're not working on the right things, or they're not managing like their energy flows and stuff. So they're trying to do creative work when they're burned out, and they're basically like dogs chasing their tail, and they're wondering why they're not getting anywhere.
Absolutely. So what is a way to set up your day with a focus? Do you have a system or a process that you use?
Well, everybody's different. So it's a big thing. So for example, I'm not a morning person. I know there's morning people out there. I love a few of them. I don't understand them, and they definitely should not talk to me before certain hours.
Right.
But if you're a morning person, get up in the morning, plan out your day, going, okay, what do I need to be working on? What are my priorities? And priorities, especially when you're in the beginning, what are things that are going to make the cash register ring within the next 90 days?
Yes.
Within the next 90 days, because no sales, no nothing. And then figure out and make sure that you're having breaks within the day, and like having a normal start and end time to your day makes a huge difference. If you're more night owl, like I'm not a super night owl, but the way my life has always gone through business and with my husband and all of this stuff, I do a lot more stuff at night. It's not uncommon to find me shutting down in my office at 11 o'clock at night. But that's okay for me. And it's taken me, like I said, I've been self-employed for over 21 years now, to figure out what is my rhythm. And my rhythm when I first started was different, because I started my business, got pregnant, had to deal with building a baby, and then like I took 30 hours of mat leave. Like we just hit the ground running. So I had to work around like my daughter's nap schedule and things like this. Now my daughter's 20 and in university, so I don't have to worry about that. But it's like, okay, what do I do? So I don't people on Mondays. Like I don't book client appointments or things like that. That's when I do my coaching calls. I don't do client appointments typically before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I'll see clients in the evening, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And so that I can work around people who have normal work schedules and stuff like that. And I found what works for me, but it took me a little bit of time to figure, okay, what are my energy flows? When are my interruptions and having to work around like my family and other people, and then making sure, like one of the blessings that I had of dealing with, like I said, I started my business, got pregnant, and then had my daughter. I had to work in very concentrated windows because, okay, I have to work in between feedings and nap time and all of this stuff. So it's not, I can't take the normal amount of time that people take to do things. It's not going to work that way. So I would have to be, okay, what do I need to do? I'd have to be very organized so I could get it done.
Right. I love that. The reminder and the encouragement to build around your natural rhythms. I have a good friend, Patricia, who's highly prolific content creator, and she does probably 90% of her video creation and editing and blog writing and newsletter writing and book writing between 10 o'clock when her husband goes to bed and 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She sleeps in the next morning till 10, 10:30, gets up, but that's her rhythm and her time for doing that. So it's really important to know what works for you, and to not let it be a case of, okay, well, I don't get it going until 2, so therefore, and I'm going to knock off at 5. Until you actually get going, that's actually not a very workable schedule. You do need to put in the time. But finding a system that's organized and logical for you, and putting it in your calendar and building your calendar around what works, like you said, when you do your client appointments, when you don't, people, so you can do planning. And I want to do a quick little plug here, because you mentioned 90 days, planning out your 90 days. I totally agree with you. And normally I don't bring up my stuff, but I do a complimentary quarter or half day hands-on workshop called Purposeful Planning, Review, Revise, and Recommit, and where you really come and work on who do you need to be so that you'll do what you need to do so you can have what you want to have. It's coming up soon, so please go to bodacity.ca/planning to find out when the next one. So this one is coming up shortly, July 8th. And so hopefully you guys will hear this before that, but if not, it's every 90 days, because like Tammy said, I think it's brilliant to do some planning, 90-day chunks. Yeah, you have to know your big picture. Yes, you need to plan out, where do you want to be 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. But really, most entrepreneurs can't focus much more than 90 days out. Stuff changes. We're growing, especially when new in business. So doing planning on a 90-day basis is a brilliant idea. So even if you take nothing else from this call, by all means, implement that. All right, so let's talk about the next thing. What else is important in terms of setting up a successful business?
Knowing what problem you actually solve. Most people make a mistake and they're focusing on their product or service. And that is one of the big reasons why they fail. Nobody cares about your product or service. They care about what problem is it solving for them. Because everybody is busy. Everybody has like literally millions of things trying to get their attention. Like if you have a cell phone, an email, or you go on the internet at all, like you are being absolutely bombarded. I've started collecting a lot of this stuff just to go, it's the same stuff, different pile, just a slightly different face. But when you know what it actually is that you do, what problem do you solve for people, so that you can get that out there, you will be able to attract the people to you that need you and want you. If you don't, you just become noise and you're going to be forgotten about instantly, because people do not have the capacity to sort through and figure out. Because most people, all they know is, I'm in pain, I have a problem, I need you to fix it for me. And a lot of the time they don't even really know what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm in pain, fix it.
Yeah.
And when you understand what actually it is that you do, like I said, then you can be reaching the people. I don't care about your product or service. I care about what's it going to do for me.
Exactly. So what's the problem you solve, and what does it do for them? Is that one of your 4 cornerstones of successful business? Know the problem you solve, or is that something else?
Well, there's more to it than that. Those are kind of foundational, like so you're talking about building, like if you go into any large city, you go to the downtown, you look at a skyscraper that they're building. How can you tell how big the skyscraper is going to be?
The depth of the hole that they're digging.
Yeah, how big is the hole? Because, and if you've watched the construction sites, they dig the hole and they do all the foundation work, and it'll take them 2-3 years to do that. And then as soon as they've got that all done, then the skyscraper, it seems like you blink and it's there.
Yes.
Because the work is like doing all the, making sure it's geologically sound, the hole is deep enough, the foundation is put together properly, it's all figured out so that it stays up, and then it can build. Where everybody wants to do the sexy fun stuff and go right to the build, and then as soon as they have like a slightly higher wind, it falls over and they don't understand, well, why?
Exactly. So what are some of the foundational things that you think new entrepreneurs should be focusing on when they're building that foundation?
Well, there's 4 keys that every single business, doesn't matter what type it is, product, service, industry, anything, they all need the exact same things. They'll just do them slightly differently. So they all need marketing. And
Yep.
that's one that everybody talks about. I get hit on like 80 times a day, it seems, for marketing. But it's absolutely vital. You need to have your advisory team. Most people, especially when they're starting out, they're getting their business advice from their broke-ass friends and family who have never done anything other than hold a job. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. You need to be surrounding yourself with other business people. You need to have good professionals in your pocket, people that are competent and actually care. Because there's a lot of people out there that care lots, but they're not all that competent. But they might have really good marketing.
Yes, lots of
Or they
those.
might be competent and have good marketing, but they really don't care.
Yeah.
So you need to have those. And like, I've seen so many people be burned by it's cheap. I'll get the cheapest accounting advice, the cheapest legal advice, the cheapest insurance, the cheapest, and that's fine until they actually find out, oh, I needed that, and I got stuff. I paid for something that wasn't worth the paper it wasn't written on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So you need to have a good advisory team. You need to understand your financials. And this is the number one area where most entrepreneurs completely avoid. And it's the first thing that they abdicate. They don't delegate it, they abdicate it. Because they think that it's scary, that it's complicated, all of these things. And that is the biggest mistake that they can make, because when you are familiar with your numbers, when you get friendly with your numbers, they tell you all sorts of stories to help you build your business and better serve your customers. And if you're avoiding them, you're missing all of that information.
Right. So what do you mean by understand your financials? So what does that mean for kind of the person who's new to business or whatever? What do they have to be on top of?
So one of the things I always insist that all of my clients, for the first 6 months to a year of their business, I want them to do all their own bookkeeping. They can have somebody that oversees it and stuff like that. They could take a course or something, but I want them to do all their own bookkeeping, because then that forces them to slow down. And I mean, like, manually put it in, because there's so many apps where it's like, oh, you take a picture of the receipt and that will look after it and all that stuff. That's just putting the information in. But when you're slowing down enough to do the data input and all this stuff, then you get to see things at a different level and you get to start asking questions. So for example, when I'm working with like a retail client or somebody that's opened up a restaurant or whatever, I will have them track their revenue by the hour. By the hour. People go, why? That's an awful lot of work. No, it's not. But why would I want them to track their revenue by the hour?
So you know when your peaks and valleys are.
Well, that's definitely part of it. So for example, I had a client years ago, he'd opened up a tea shop, and he was opening at 8 o'clock in the morning and shutting down at 5 o'clock at night. And when I had him start tracking hourly, well, the cash register wasn't ringing until 11 o'clock. And then he'd have a really busy time around 2, and then it would get quiet. And then he was starting to get really busy around 5 when he was closing the shop. So number one, first off, we need to adjust your hours.
Right.
And if you're going to be in the shop earlier, that's fine. What are you going to be doing? Or if you're having staff, what are you going to have them doing that's going to be productive and help you, rather than sitting there and twiddling their thumbs? And then also, okay, so why are you having the rush at 2 o'clock? And why are things picking up at 5? Well, we started going through and figuring out that he was like half a block from a parkade, and then another block down from him was a massage school. And so the people were parking at the parkade, going past his shop, going, okay, I'm going to pop in and check this place out and get a tea and something and go off to my class. Well, then I said, well, why don't we do something to help you market to them? Maybe you should be going to the building and offer you a coupon or a frequent flyer card or something like that. But he only got that by actually paying attention to the reality of the numbers and asking the different questions. And okay, well, what's going on? Why are people starting to come in at 5 when I'm shutting down? Okay, well, that's when all these other businesses are shutting down and people are looking at going home, or they're walking to the restaurant, or different things around like this. Okay, well, how can we take better advantage of that? But a lot of people just go, if there isn't, I'm not looking at the bank account unless I know there's millions in there because I want to avoid it. Well, then they're missing all these beautiful details. And there's a lot of people that they think they're making money on things and they're not. And the stuff that is making them money, they don't know about and they're not promoting and things like this. So it's getting to know your numbers. Like I said, that's just one very good example, but I've worked with a lot of tradespeople and things like this. And when we actually, like I said, let's look at your numbers, and it's not just what is the dollar and cents, what's the story behind the numbers? What's going on here?
Yep, absolutely. You can definitely tell you're passionate about that particular topic.
Well,
and
all of it.
exactly.
But it's like, that's an easy one, because like I said, most people, and like I said, when their business starts going, one of the first things that they abdicate is the bookkeeping. I don't want to look at it. Just make sure the bills and stuff are paid and tell me when I have to sign for my taxes. And then they wonder why there's problems and why isn't their business growing and all this stuff. Because yes, if your business isn't bookkeeping and you do understand it, it's going properly, but if you're not looking at your numbers, working with your bookkeeper, working with your accountant, you're missing opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm one of those people that hates bookkeeping and have been having a hard time finding a really good bookkeeper and spent quite a bit of time abdicating versus delegating. So, which is why I'm now on bookkeeper number 5, because I wasn't paying attention, wasn't hiring the right people, wasn't doing enough due diligence on fit with my bookkeeper and whether or not they were the kind of person who had experience in online businesses with dual currencies and doing lots of different kinds of transactions, and variations, because, the last one was a CPA with 25 years of experience. And she just found my business too complex, which is kind of amusing because it's really not. But for her, it was not the kind of business she was used to doing. So it wasn't a good fit.
What wasn't a good fit. And like, you don't want to end up like Willie Nelson going on his IRS tour because his bookkeeper, he fully abdicated, and his bookkeeper and accountant never paid the IRS.
Yeah. Exactly. So understanding your financials, whether or not you want to learn bookkeeping or not, for the first little while, doing that work so that you know how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. I recently had a credit card get hacked and had some fraud on it. And so I had to cancel that card and get a new one. And the banks are very good now about cracking down on stuff. They noticed it far sooner than I did. And I didn't notice until people started contacting me and saying your credit card didn't go through, which I knew was kind of like weird because there was room on it and stuff. And so I've called the bank. They said they'd shut it down. What that experience did for me was I realized, because I had to go reset them all up, how many charges I had that were on auto payment. And as a result, so business charges, software, applications, et cetera, as a result, weaned those out and cleaned out some of the ones that were no longer serving, that were no longer of benefit, or that I hadn't been using, and saved myself hundreds of dollars a month because of it. So that kind of paying attention is really important, and it, ideally proactively before you have to, because someone hacked your card. So yeah, paying attention to the numbers more. All right.
And the big thing is, it's not scary. That's the biggest thing. People think it's scary and it's complicated and they're going to feel stupid. No. Let's show you how to look at it properly. But that's a big one. And then the last one, systems. Systems. Because if you don't have systems, you don't have a business. If you are the one that's doing everything, you don't have a business. You have a job that owns you.
Yes, absolutely. That's a big one, big mic drop one there. If you don't have a job that you can do things that don't require your every moment, then you have basically a job that doesn't pay well. So typically, so what kind of systems are you talking about? What do you mean by that?
Oh, systems, like systems for your marketing, systems for your scheduling, systems for dealing with your customers, systems for making sure that you're taking your personal time off, templates, your systems for like everything. And it's systems for making sure that your website is kept up to date and accurate and all of these things. Like there's ways you could systematize pretty much everything, and it's a never ending thing, because as things grow and evolve and all this stuff, like I read every single day, and I just finished reading Who Will Cry When You Die from Robin Sharma. Absolutely fabulous book. So I've read it many times, but it's really quite funny because he's talking about cassette tapes and fax machines, and you could do a mastermind in person or as a conference call. And I'm going, it just tells you how quickly things have changed because everything is Zoom now. And what's a cassette tape, Jen?
Exactly.
A cassette tape?
I know. I was listening to a motivational thing called Thinking Big. Les Brown was talking about when he used to take his cassette tapes wrapped with a rubber band and sold them that way.
Yep.
It's like, that was a while back. So yes. Okay. So what systems do you think? Because one of the things that I know is a lot of people will use that as an excuse for not getting into sales and marketing, because they have to put all their systems in place and they have to make sure everything's working. They go out and spend so many entrepreneurs, myself included, spend a lot of money on something like Infusionsoft long before it's appropriate or necessary, long before they know what to do with it. And they spend a whole bunch of time learning software that they don't know how to use or what to capitalize on. So what do you think they should start with initially? What's the basics?
I'm also a really, really big fan of keeping it as cheap and accessible and easy as possible. And I'm old school. And I'm a big fan of this thing called pen and paper.
Okay.
So first thing I do, and I love this. This is actually a great marketing piece from a realtor in our area, so I kept it. But I'll have people will go through and we'll print off a year's worth of monthly calendars. And then we go and we get our friendly pencil. And we lay it all out. So we've got January, we're in July now. So let's do July to the end of June next year, and go through and put in your big rocks. And your big rocks are things like, okay, your holidays. When my daughter was little, I need to pull up the school schedule and know when she's going to be off, because that's going to adjust everything. When I was doing my classes or trade shows or different things, put those big rocks in, and then figure out, okay, for marketing, like, I'm a huge fan of CRM and stuff, but there are so many of them out there. And like there's HubSpot and Infusionsoft and all these other ones, which are wonderful, but they're expensive and they get more expensive very, very quickly. And if you start out using them and you put all this time into it, you're going, that's not the right thing for me or whatever, you wasted that time and the money. I'm a big fan. Just start with an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And figure out what exactly is it that I need and how do I want to use this and stuff, because then you can always choose down the road and just migrate that information. Like I'm going through and doing a huge migration and having all sorts of stuff put together for CRM, like everything for me now. But I've been in business for 21 years and I've been running KSA for 4 now, because when I split the business in 2. But start with pen and paper. And what are you going to be doing? Like, and if you're talking about social media marketing, which you have to do something for social media, because if you don't exist, what do you want to be talking about? And like literally be looking at it. Okay, it's July. So if you're talking about planting your strawberries or whatever, you're too late.
Right.
So make sure that you're talking about things appropriately and you're planning it out. When is this stuff going to be done? Pen and paper is one of the simplest things to do, because you could always be building your systems. And if you're waiting for perfect doesn't exist. It just means that you're not going to survive, because you will have done nothing. It will be a perfect nothing, but it's still nothing.
Right. Well, so tell people where they can find out more about you.
So Great place to find me is my website, which is ksabusiness.ca.
Mhm.
So, and if you didn't know, KSA stands for Kick Some Ass.
Okay, Kick Some Ass Business,
Yeah,
KSA.
ksabusiness.ca. Or you can find me on Instagram at ksa.business.
Okay, her at ksabusiness.com, you said, right?
No, .ca. I'm a
.ca.
Canadian.
Right. Okay, so kick some ass. Okay, I'm just putting it in the chat here. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so tell us that you've got a gift for people, an assessment that they can go and do to help them figure out where they're at. So tell us a little bit about that and spell out the URL. I put it in the chat, but they may not see this on the chat.
So it's just a quick little self-assessment that I put together to help people figure out where they're strong, because everybody has some strengths going into business, where they're weak, and most importantly, the bits they don't even know about.
Mhm.
And it only takes about 5 minutes to go through, but you can download it at ksabusiness.ca/gift. Really easy.
ksabusiness.ca/gift. All right, so go and get that and do the assessment, because I think that's a really cool piece of information to have. And plan your day, know the problem you solve, and focus on your marketing. Get a good advisory team, which includes a good coach for the stage of business you're at. You don't want a coach that's going to be telling you to do things that are ahead of the stage you're at, because you'll just waste a lot of time and money if they're getting you to do things that are all about scaling when you don't have your foundation in place. So that's something that we really share passionately in common. Understand your financials, get familiar with them, and put systems in place that really help you to show up and be ready to go. And I do agree with the planning on paper and so forth, but I do encourage people to get an online calendar, because I have lost my paper calendar in the past and was devastated.
You only use the paper for the planning. Everything goes into my Google.
Yes, and then put it on your Google Calendar. I just had a friend of mine who's been in business a long time, and she sets all her appointments manually. So I just got her on an automated calendar, and it saved her hours a week rather than going back and forth on that. So one of the first things is get a calendar. There's lots of free ones, and I use Acuity. Calendly is very popular, but I think that that's probably the best investment, is to get a good calendar system that has all the functionality you need. Start with that, then work on the other systems. But people need to be able to book with you so that you can actually have conversations and sell clients what you do. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I love your passion. I love, Tammy, that you are committed to really supporting people on a strong footing and having them do what's important. All right, so tell me, what's the last word you'd like to leave people with, or a final thought you'd like to leave people with?
Be the tortoise, not the hare.
I love that. That's a big conversation all in one line. So be the tortoise, not the hare. All right, folks, have a bodacious week. Please do, whether you've been in business for a while or you're just starting out, do some of the things that we're talking about here. If you haven't done them, it's time to start. All right, thanks for being here, Tammy. Appreciate your time. Check her out on ksabusiness.ca and go get that assessment so you can kind of figure out where you're at and where to go from here. Take care, everybody. Have a bodacious week. Bye for now.